looking to purchase an infant between the ages of 1 to 12 months. The first ad screamed in black and white letters on the tour browser. We'll pay a reasonable price. Other streams, even sinister advertisements filled the page, some offering to buy and sell kidneys or other organs. A few offered human slaves. My friend Adrian laughed next to me as he sat in his computer chair reading over my shoulder. What's a reasonable price for a black market baby? Adrian asked, pushing his large black-rimmed glasses up on his nose. His dark, lanky hair was cut into a bowl cut, making him even look younger than his 14 years. He was in my grade at school, my best friend who I've known for 2 years since he first moved into Frost Hollow from out west. You think any of this crap is even real? I said, trying to repress an urge to smile. Adrian's wheezing, almost feminine laugh almost made me crack up even when the joke itself wasn't funny. No, he said, of course not. What kind of mother would sell their own damn baby after all? I bet you all of these are all scams. I bet nothing on the dark web is even real. I shrugged. I mean, there's a lot of mothers are willing to abort their babies, so why not sell them too? I asked. Hell, if you sell your baby on the black market, at least it's still alive, right? Yeah, I guess, he said, his smile wiped off his face. I don't know, man. If this crap is real, what would someone with a baby? What if there was a serial killer who wants to kill babies or something like that? Check this out. What if they raise them up to become a hitman or use them as like medical experiments or something? Oh, dude, check this out. What if it's a pharmaceutical company trying to get guinea pigs for human experiment? His eyes looked glazed as his mouth ran into a torrent of verbal diarrhea. Raise them up to become hitmen, I asked, now laughing for real. Come on, man, there's easier ways to find a hitman, I think, than raise them up from scratch for 18 years or 20 years. I mean, there's a lot of people willing to kill for a quick buck right now, after all. You mean like you, Michael? Adrian said jokingly, his thin lips pressed together in a tight smile. I shook my head. That's not funny, I responded defensively. Dude, you know me. I would never even hurt a fly. I looked back at the computer and we've both been curious ever since we heard about the dark web, but things were just about to get a little bit more sinister in the next few minutes. Ooh, have you ever heard of a red room? Adrian asked abruptly. I looked at him confused. Isn't it a place where prostitutes work? I said. He laughed. No, I think that's called red light or something, he said, still grinning. No, but seriously, red rooms are much worse. They're on the dark web supposedly anyway. They show actual torture and murder. Apparently people can watch, and if they spend money, they can even get the torturer to do whatever they tell them to do. I gave Adrian a disgusted look. Dude, that's super messed up, I said, shaking my head. There's no way that's real. I don't know, man. You ever seen the 3 guys in one hammer? That's all over the regular web, and that's real, Adrian said. Dude, I think we should check it out and see if it's real. I think it'd be a cool story, right? Dude, we can always just exit out real quick if we find something really messed up. Adrian rolled his computer chair up, pushing me to the side, and he began typing something into the Tor browser. I looked out of the window of Adrian's room, seeing the dark winter night outside. Gusts of ice and snow blew sideways in the screeching winds. All over his walls, Adrian had pictures of horror characters, posters of Cthulhu and Michael Myers. A grinning picture of Charlie Manson was taped over the side of his monitor, his dark eyes sparkling mischievously. Huh? Adrian muttered under his breath. Weird. I looked over at the monitor, seeing a camera feed coming up. It showed a dark red room with a blood-stained steel table in the center. 2 ancient rusted folding chairs were set up haphazardly in the background. Well, that was fast, I said, looking close at the screen. What is it? What did you find? Adrian gave me a strange look. His thin face went pale. It was a link for a camera feed to the afterlife, supposedly, Adrian responded, giving a short bark of fake laughter. And yet his face showed clear anxiety. I wondered why. It said it's a red room for hell, Adrian said. Yeah, that's definitely bullshit, I said, smirking as I glanced over at the monitor. The door in the back of the dark room on the screen suddenly opened. There was a strobe and fiery glow that turned the video feed blood red for a few moments, as if an active volcano or structure fire raged in the background. When it had cleared and the door had slammed closed, I saw 2 figures in the room, staged in the exact center of the screen. A man with a black hood over his head lay on a blood-stained metal table tied down with rusted razor wire that wrapped around his body like a snake. The wire bit deeply into his skin. Wet rivulets of blood soaked his clothes, which looked like some sort of khaki prison uniform. In front of the camera stood something demonic, something eyeless and tall. It had a pointed bone-white head. Only a wide slash of the mouth marred smooth flesh. It wore a shimmering black robe that fluttered around its body as if it were in a light breeze. It raised his white hands and his sharp, twisted fingers clenching and unclenching. As it opened his hands, I saw eyes in the center of each of his palms, black and lidless. They rolled in their sockets.
My name is Mr. Smith.
The abomination hissed. His throat gurgled as if he had gargled with hypochloric acid. His voice was diseased and low, not much more than a sickly whisper emanating from the speakers.
I want to welcome both of you to the show.
Adrian pulled back as if he had been physically struck. I felt sick and weak, but I couldn't look away. Mr. Slither's skin cracked loudly as a grin split his smooth alien face. He slunk his back towards the table, navigating his way with his spiky fingers held out in front of his body, like a man walking through a room in total darkness. Mr. Slither kneeled down and ripped off the victim's black hood, revealing a pale, emaciated face brimming over with mortal terror. But the face looked familiar. With a growing sense of horror, I immediately realized why. On the flickering screen of the monitor, I saw the face of my father, a man who died nearly 5 years ago when a drunk driver was going in the wrong way on the highway and smashed into his truck, killing him instantly. The drunk driver had been fine, just a few gashes and cuts from broken glass, but now I was forever without a father. It felt like a piece of my heart had been sliced out, and a black empty void filled it. Mr. Slither appeared behind my father, raising his hands, the black eyes on his palms rolling constantly. My father's teeth chattering as he looked straight at the camera with a pleading expression. The horror and the fear in his eyes shook me to the core. My vision became blurry, a single tear running down my cheek. I blinked fast, breathing hard and trying to focus on the screen. "Michael, I know you hear me," my father said. My heart raced as I heard his voice, a voice I only had heard in my dreams for so long. I wondered if this was real at all. Perhaps I would just wake up at any moment surrounded by darkness, alone in my room. "What the f***?" Adrian whispered close behind me, leaning towards the monitor and blinking fast. "Who's that guy on the table? What is even this? I have no idea what I'm watching right now, but that's some crazy mask that guy's got on. Holy shit!" I had only known Adrian for a couple of years, so he had never met my father before his untimely death, and therefore, he wouldn't even recognize him. That's my dad," I whispered.
Michael, please listen to me. You need to destroy the computer and get out of the house. Smash the monitor. Burn the motherboard.
My father started to say when Mr. Slither's cracking, elongated lips wrapped around his face. His fingers like black railroad spikes drew across my father's face slowly and caressingly, almost like a lover.
Michael.
Mr. Slither gurgled in a dark voice brimming with infection.
You are able to see what others will not. The true nature of all things. You and your friend must watch this now, all the way to the end, because it will reveal to you what was hidden behind the veil. This is where everyone ends up after they die. You see, our cold concrete rooms dissected alive on steel tables, burned, tortured, melted, boiled, and frozen. They stay alive forever, for you're the both. The one you call upon despised humanity with every piece of his dirt or soul. They heal eternally, drinking from the fountains of light that's death crushing them over and over, like ships flung on the rocky shore.
As if to demonstrate, Mr. Slither drew his sharp fingers back, slicing slowly and painfully through my father's cheeks. The flaps of skin fall slowly down with the bubbling of blood. My father screamed and expressed in total agony and mortal terror, changing his face into a grimace. Mr. Slither laughed, raising his hands above his head, the black eyes spinning as they stared straight at me and Adrian. My father tried to pull away, but the razor wire bit deeper into his flesh, making a fresh stream of blood drip from his mutilated body. "Turn it off!" I screamed, lunging for the computer. I hit the power button on the front, holding it down and waiting. I watched the screen with a bated breath, but Mr. Slither only laughed. "Shit! Adrian, do something!" But Adrian only sat there like a sheep, his mouth open and his eyes glazed. Mr. Slither turned his attention back to my father. Mr. Slither's fingers came down, forcing my father's lips apart. As my father gritted his teeth and tried to pull his head away, Mr. Slither reached his fingers in, prodding and pushing. There was a cracking sound and a blossoming splash of blood. My father gave a muted shriek as Mr. Slither pulled.
"You are worthy,"
Mr. Slither wailed as his bone-thin arms crackled.
"Worthy indeed."
With a cracking of bone and an explosion of blood, my father's jaw came ripping off. The monitor strobed and wavered as waves of crackling static ran down the screen. With a screech like a tea kettle boiling, flames and suffocating clouds of black smoke began to rise from the computer and monitor all at once. The electricity flickered and died, plunging the house into total silence. In the total darkness, a warm, sweaty hand reached out to me and grabbed mine. I felt Adrian's body tremble as he held my hand. I thought I could count each beat of his thumping heart through his skin. I don't think this is a prank," Adrian whispered furtively, his voice shaking. I couldn't even see an inch in front of his nose. I took a deep breath. I hadn't been crying, I realized, feeling wet trails of tears staining my cheeks. This has to be a prank," I said quietly. "You know how easy it is to fake this stuff with AI now? Any drooling idiot can do it. My father is dead. That's not him. It's simply impossible. None of this is possible." "Then what happened to the power?" Adrian asked. "And how did that thing know that there were two of us here? And how did your father know your name and that you were watching?" I felt rivers of sweat running down my forehead. In the pitch black, I just shook my head. "Obviously someone hacked the computer and was watching us through the webcam," I answered. "That's how they knew my name and everything. They probably stole our information." "Come on, that doesn't make any sense, man," Adrian argued. Something hot and furious twisted its way through my chest. "No shit, it doesn't make any sense," I yelled. "But obviously, none of it is real. You really think a freaking link to the afterlife is just gonna appear on the dark web? When you have eliminated the impossible, then whatever remains, however probable, must be the truth. Don't tell me you actually believe we were looking into a vision of hell." I heard Adrian inhale deeply, sighing. He started to say something when the computer monitor abruptly came back to life. Torrents of fire and lava scissored their way down the screen, illuminating the room in a dim, bloody glow. The shadows in the corners creeped towards us, leaving the edges of the room in blackness. The walls had changed as well, turning an angry dark red, the color of an infected wound. The rest of the power was still out. I knew we were alone in the house, at least until Adrian's parents got back. At least, I hope we were alone in the house. Adrian abruptly gave a cry like a strangled cat. He grabbed my shoulder with his thin, trembling hand. I jumped, turning to look at him in surprise. "What is—" I began to say, when I saw his eyes, as wide as saucers and emanating an unspeakable primal terror. They were looking directly over my shoulder at something behind me. I glanced back, my heart hammering ice-cold water through my veins. My eyes widened as I realized Adrian's room looked completely different. Other than the desk and the two chairs, everything was gone. All of his furniture, his beds, his poster, even his bookshelf stocked with sci-fi and fantasy. Everything had been wiped away in an instant and replaced. I saw a cold, steel table covered in blood. My father lay on it, and his body still tied tightly down with the razor wire. It sliced his wrists, his ankles, his chest and stomach. Frothy blood bubbled from his distorted jaw. Mr. Slither had ripped off his entire mandible within the space of a moment. My father still lived, at least for now. His eyes rolled wildly like a horse with a broken leg. They fixed on me for a long moment, and he seemed to calm down slightly. My father tried to speak, his bloody, mutilated tongue still flapping. He made noises. Oh. It seemed like my father tried to say something important, but I had no idea what it could be. Behind him, 2 more steel tables lay, covered in gore but otherwise empty. "We need to get out of here," Adrian whispered frantically, grabbing my hand. I nodded, unable to speak. I couldn't even look at my father, withered on the table like some sort of victim of human experiment at a death camp. We got up together, running to the door. The floor was covered in an ancient blood that stuck to our shoes with a tacky sucking sound. My father continued to cry out in incomprehensible syllables. His voice became more frantic, as if he was trying to communicate something vital, but neither one of us can understand a single word. As Adrian ripped the door open and we flew through the upstairs hallway into darkness, I hear a car engine turning off outside. A few moments later, a key slid its way into the front door downstairs. I heard Adrian's parents talking softly in a low susurration as they came in, unaware of the hell they were entering. They would become aware of it very soon, however. "Mom! Dad! Get out of the house!" Adrian screamed in a high-pitched voice choked with anxiety and fear. They stopped talking suddenly, their barely audible footsteps pausing. "Adrian?" His father called out, sounding worried. We've reached the stairs by this point and were slowly descending to the first floor, feeling our way forward in the darkness. "What is it?" "Dad, there's someone in the house!" Adrian cried. "Get out! Call the cops now!" His father's face appeared at the bottom of the stairs a few seconds later. He held a flashlight in his hand, shining it up at us. An expression of grave concern flickered over his narrow, serious face. "Okay, boys, calm down. We'll figure out what," his father started to say, still shining the flashlight up at us, when a pale, twisted hand reached out out of darkness and grabbed him. The sharp spikes of the fingers pierced his neck. Blood exploded from the wounds. The long arm dragged him away. A wet sound filled with gurgling and muted screams drifted up to us. A few moments later, it cut off, and then everything in the house went silent again.
Good evening, everyone. If you happen to like our content, then please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing is free. If you ever feel the need to change it, you can always do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that way you never miss any of our content. Now back to the video.
Adrian and I paused halfway down the stairs. We had no cell phones to call for help, neither has any one of our families had thought a 14-year-old needed one. I had a lighter in my pocket that I kept for smoking weed, however. Reaching frantically down into my pocket, I pulled it out and flicked it, giving us a modicum of light to go by. "Where's Mom?" Adrian whispered to himself. "Why don't I hear her?" He looked sick and weak, as if he was about to pass out. "Do you think Dad's okay?" In truth, I did not, but I wasn't about to say that. "Adrian, we need to go back upstairs and jump out of the window," I said. "I'm not going back down there." I started backpedaling away, back towards Adrian's room in a tortured vision of my father. "What about Mom?" Adrian asked frantic. "What about Dad? We just can't leave him down there." "Dude, we need to go get help," I answered. "We need to get the cops here immediately." "Dude, what are you gonna do if you go down there besides die or seriously get hurt? You think you could take that thing on?" As if in response, we heard gurgling, deceived breathing from the floor below. Without hesitation, I turned and ran. A moment later, Adrian's light footsteps followed me back to the room. I ran to the window, trying to unlock it in the dark. I flicked the lighter with one hand and began to try to open it, when a grinning, eyeless face appeared around the threshold of the door. "Oh shit!" Adrian cried. It's here, run!" I looked down for a brief moment before starting to crawl out of the window. Behind me, Adrian was pushing me forward, trying to get out himself. I had gotten my body most of the way through when a hand as cold as liquid nitrogen closed around my ankle and pulled me back inside. I thought, kicking and thrashing. Another hand came down around my face. I bit down on the finger as hard as I could. Freezing blood with the taste of sulfur flowed into my mouth. Mr. Slither only laughed. With a powerful swing of his hand, he slammed my head into the wall. One of the colors of the world faded away to darkness as oblivion took over. I awoke to screaming in my skull, a migraine that felt like it would split my head in two. I groaned, my eyes fluttering open. I looked around the room and realized that I was tied down to one of the tables with rope. Next to me, Adrian lay, still unconscious. Mr. Slither stood between us. He had one arm extended out to each of us, the black lidless eye in the middle of his palm twisting with insanity and hunger.
Your default has already been waiting for each child in eternity.
Mr. Slither gurgled.
Every parent, every brother, every sister, there is no heaven. There is the sons and daughters of Adam. Only endless suffering awaits you beyond the veil.
Why? Why are you doing this to me? I asked in a hoarse voice. Waves of nausea ripped their way through my stomach.
Why?
Mr. Slither leaned down, his smooth face coming close to mine.
There is no why,
he said.
There is only eternity.
He paused, pulling away.
What is the color death?
He hissed, almost contemplatively.
The white light of tunnels leading up to heaven. The black of oblivion. The blue of cyanotic lips and dying fingernails.
He laughed at his ears chortling that wheezed through his marble white throat.
It is none of these.
Mr. Slither continued.
Death is red, as red, with a damned scream in agony forever. Death is red as a rose in a full bloom. Eternity is here waiting for you, waiting to consume your flesh like a virus.
Adrian awoke abruptly then, his eyes shooting open behind his black-rimmed glasses. He had a deep gash sliced across his forehead and his nose was bleeding pretty badly. He turned his head, spitting blood-streaked mucus on the floor. After a few moments, he started to get his bearings. He looked over at me, and then, with an increasing sense of terror gleaming on his face, he turned to Mr. Slither. "Oof, you killed my father, you piece of shit!" He spat angrily, tears rolling down his face. Mr. Slither only grinned down at him and expressing a pure sadism.
Like father, like son.
Mr. Slither whispered coldly, running his long, twisted fingers over the table like a spider. They clawed over to Adrian's face and gently took off his glasses. "Oh, please don't hurt me," Adrian pleaded. Mr. Slither only laughed as he took a sharp index finger and lowered it to Adrian's eye. "Oh, no, don't do this. Please. There was a wet sound, the sound of blood gushing and flesh separating. Adrian screamed in agony. I had closed my eyes. I was unable to look, but I heard the sound of chewing, something popping. Adrian hyperventilated nearby, still pleading and screeching. I looked over, seeing Mr. Slither slicing open Adrian's shirt with his scalpel-like fingers. His hand hovered over the center of his chest. One of Adrian's eyes was gone, the black socket staring sightlessly up.
The heart of all things.
Mr. Slither whispered in his infected tone. With a quick stab, he shoved his fingers deep into Adrian's chest. Cracking of ribs reverberated through the room with a sickening snap. I heard police sirens in the distance, growing closer by the second. Faint surge of hope fluttered through my chest, even as I looked at this abomination holding my best friend beating heart in his alien hand. Mr. Slither came over to me, looking down with glee and excitement. He ran his left hand over my face. I could feel the sharp points of his fingers tracing their way down to my cheek, slowly and caressingly.
Where should we start?
He asked in a low, throaty voice.
With the eyes.
He ran one of his fingers around my eyelids, tracing little circles that sent shivers running through my flesh.
Maybe the tongue.
He traced his fingers around my lips.
Or how about...
"Hey, scumbag!" A woman's voice cried from the door. Mr. Slither slowly rose to his full height, turning to look at the newcomer. I saw Adrian's mother standing there, holding a pistol in her hands. She was in the waiver stands, ready to fire. As soon as Mr. Slither raised his hand out towards Adrian's mother and looked at her with a single demonic eye, she fired. The bullet smashed straight through Mr. Slither's outreached hand, blowing his obsidian eye to pieces. Fragments of skin and bone exploded from the wound. He gave it his screech of pain and stumbled forward. He still held Adrian's heart in his right hand, and without hesitation, he threw it at Adrian's mom. The heart soared across the room, drops of blood flying in all directions as it spiraled through the air. It smacked her square in the face with a wet thud. She stumbled back, shaking her head. Splatters of crimson-like raindrops covered her face and hair. She gave a low, anguished moan, and for a horrible moment, I thought she would simply faint. But as Mr. Slither ran right at her with vengeance and fury, she came back to life, raising the gun up and firing again and again. The bullet smashed into his chest, his stomach, and legs. Dark, sluggish blood, the consistency of maple syrup dripping from the many wounds. Bent over and looking much weaker, Mr. Slither slammed into Adrian's mother. He raked his sharp fingers over her face as he passed. She screamed in pain, falling back heavily. The floor shook as Mr. Slither disappeared down the stairs, still wailing in a distinct voice full of pain and uncertainty. After a few moments, Adrian's mother moaned and pushed herself up slowly. In the bloody glow of the computer monitor, I could see the deep wounds marring her face. Her right cheek had been slashed into two, the flaps of skin hanging down like the slashed fabric of a tent. Her right eye was badly damaged, dripping vitreous fluid and crimson streaks down her face like bloody tears. A deep gash ran across her forehead and chin as well. She stumbled forward towards me, looking dissociated and on the verge of passing out. She glanced over at Adrian's corpse for a long, sad moment, then turned her attention towards me. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folding knife, which she used to begin cutting the rope. As she freed me and we finally left the room of horrors, the first of the police cars reached the driveway. As I would later find out, Adrian's mother had called the police on her cell phone before returning to try to save us. The bodies of Adrian, his father, and my father were all gone by the time the police searched the house. Only a few steel tables still remained in the room, covered in layers of gore and clotted blood. Mr. Slither had disappeared as well, and for that, I give thanks. I hope I never see this disgusting monster again. What he told me makes me wonder what if he was right? What if after death we ended up in eternal misery, tortured and killed over and over again into the end of time? I never used to be afraid of death, but after my experiences with Mr. Slither in the Red Room, I am petrified now.
Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free, and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.